I used to think the ants on my rose bushes were just passing through, harmless, maybe even cute, tiny little things running around, busy like a miniature city. Until one May afternoon, I sat down to take a close look at a branch heavily infested with aphids. And what I saw wasn't just ants passing through, it looked more like a miniature dairy farm. This is something most YouTube videos never explain to you. Ants don't eat aphids. And they aren't just accidentally walking by, the ants are farming the aphids literally. Here is how it works. A worker ant taps the aphid's abdomen with its antennae. That tapping stimulates the aphid to release a droplet of sweet liquid called honeydew. The ant drinks that droplet right on the spot. A 2019 study in the Journal of Insect Physiology showed that aphids regularly milked by ants produce up to 3 times more honeydew than they would naturally excrete on their own. They become highly productive dairy cows just because the ants keep stimulating them. In return, what do the ants do? They protect the aphid colony like their own private property. They attack ladybugs, parasitic wasps, anything that dares to threaten their livestock. They clear dead aphids off the plant. They even quarantine aphids showing signs of fungal infection, carrying them far away and discarding them. And the craziest part? Ants actually mark each aphid in the colony with a specific chemical blend unique to their nest. It's like branding cattle with a hot iron on your ranch. Once the aphids are branded, other ant colonies won't touch them. This is why you spray for aphids week after week and they still won't go away. You kill a few aphids, but the worker ants escape. And within 48 hours, they will release new aphids from their underground reserves to replace them. You're not losing the battle against aphids. You're losing the battle against an organized farming system, and its headquarters isn't on the plant. It's right under your feet. In the autumn of 2023, I dug up a dead rose bush to plant a new one. My shovel accidentally cut right through a black ant nest nestled directly beneath the roots, about 30 centimeters deep. And what I saw made me freeze in my tracks. In the smallest chambers of the nest, right among the young ant larvae, were clusters of tiny, off-white aphid eggs, arranged as neatly as caviar in a high-end grocery store. The ants had been storing these aphid eggs in their nest all winter long. This was no accident. This is a survival strategy evolved over millions of years, the black garden ant Lasius. Niger has a unique behavior in the autumn. As temperatures start to drop, worker ants don't just gather food for themselves. They also collect aphid eggs from nearby plants and carry them down to the deepest chambers of the nest, where the temperature stays stable all winter. Then spring arrives, the first tender rose shoots begin to emerge, and guess who transports the very first batch of young aphids up to those shoots? The worker ants. They carry each newly hatched aphid from the underground nest up to the rose plant, place them in the prime spots, and start milking them right away. A 2017 study in the journal Ecological Entomology documented that Lasius niger nests that overwinter aphid eggs produce aphid populations on host plants up to 4 times larger than those without a nearby ant colony. This battle cannot be won on the branches. You have to target the ant nest, but you don't need to dig it up. You just need to turn the worker ants into the very transport vehicle that carries the eliminator right back to the queen's chamber using something already sitting in your kitchen cabinet. Before we start brewing, keep borax out of reach of children. Wear gloves if you have sensitive skin. Borax is not sugar even though it looks like it. Last year I had a humiliating failure. I mixed a batch of borax sugar bait, confidently placed it on the rose trunk, and the ants ignored it. They walked right around my bait like they were avoiding a muddy puddle. The problem was the ratio. I had used way too much borax. The scientific term for this mechanism is trophallaxis, or what I simply call the internal food delivery system. Worker ants have a social stomach called a crop. When they find a liquid food source, they fill this crop, carry it back to the nest, and regurgitate it mouth to mouth to feed the others. A single worker ant can feed dozens of nestmates from just one trip. A 2022 study in the journal Pest Management Science proved that when borax is mixed at the correct concentration with sugar, it inhibits digestive enzymes in ants. They die after about 24 to 48 hours, just enough time to spread the toxin through trophallaxis to every corner of the nest, including the queen. And here is the exact recipe: half a teaspoon of borax, 4 tablespoons of white sugar, 4 tablespoons of hot water. Stir until the mixture is completely clear. Let it cool, it will thicken to the consistency of pure honey. That is the ideal thickness. If you make it too thick, the ants won't be able to suck it into their crop. If you make it too runny, the bait will drip onto the ground when the weather gets hot. I've made both of those mistakes, so you don't have to. I used to think that just smearing the gel bait anywhere on the trunk was enough. I was dead wrong. This past March, I ran a crazy experiment. 10 rose bushes of the same variety, same age, and same level of aphid infestation, and I placed the gel bait at 10 different heights on the trunks. After 48 hours, the difference was so dramatic I had to film it. The plants with the bait placed at 30 to 45 centimeters high saw 3 times more ant traffic. On the plants where it was placed close to the ground, the bait dried out and got contaminated with microbes within 2 days. On the ones placed too high, the ants just marched right past without stopping, like cars speeding down a highway missing a road sign. The reason lies in ant behavior. At that 30 to 45 centimeter sweet spot, roughly the midway point of their journey from the nest to the canopy, they tend to slow down to reorient themselves. A 2019 study in the Journal of Experimental Biology pointed out that when given a choice between aphid honeydew and a 25% sucrose sugar solution, ants will actually abandon the aphids to focus on the sugar. They are just as lazy as we are. Here is my standard procedure. Step 1. Measure 30 to 45 centimeters up from the ground. Use a tape measure, don't eyeball it. Step 2. Wipe that section of the trunk clean with a dry paper towel. Step 3. Wrap a strip of paper masking tape, the beige kind, about 5 centimeters wide around the trunk. Step 4. Use a small brush to paint the gel bait across the entire surface of the tape. And hey, after handling the gel bait, wash your hands with soap. Do not rub your eyes. I did that once and it wasn't pleasant. Never apply the bait directly onto the bark. I did that during my first season, and by the end of the year, the bark in that spot turned black and started peeling. Now, for the most important warning. Within the first 6 to 12 hours after placing the gel bait, you will see the number of ants on the trunk double. Do not panic. Do not remove the bait. This is not a sign of failure. This is the sign of success. The worker ants are releasing recruitment pheromones, calling the entire nest up to gather the bait. That is exactly what you want. Trust the process. Leave the bait right where it is. My dog, Charlie, is a 5-year-old golden retriever. He's the sweetest dog on the planet, but he has a strange obsession. Licking plants. I don't know why, but when I started placing gel bait on the rose trunks, my very first question was, will Charlie lick this? My solution is almost laughably simple. I call it the protective collar. You take an empty plastic water bottle, cut off the bottom and the neck, leaving just the cylindrical body. Make a vertical cut down the side so it opens up like a cuff. Wrap this cylinder around the spot where you applied the gel bait and secure it with a small piece of wire. The ants can still crawl in through the openings at the bottom and top, but Charlie's tongue can't reach it. If you have young kids who might touch the plants, the same principle applies. Always supervise them. Now, here is the critical 3-day timeline. Take a photo every morning. Take notes. Day 1, you set the bait in the morning. By the afternoon, the number of ants skyrockets. This is the recruitment phase. Do not touch them. Day 2, the ant population drops visibly, from hundreds of ants down to just a scattered few dozen. The bait has reached the nest. The first ants have already begun dying inside the colony. Day 3, the trunk is practically empty. The nest is collapsing. The queen is likely dead or dying. There's no one left to order new recruits, no one left to tend to the aphids on the plant. And then the real magic begins. By day 7, I set up my camera for a time lapse. Wild ladybugs started landing on the rose branches. A 2018 study in the Journal of Economic Entomology proved this. When ants are physically excluded from rose plants, aphid populations drop by 80% in just 14 days, solely due to natural predators. I didn't need to buy or release a single ladybug. This is the beauty of this method. You aren't the one killing the aphids. You're simply unlocking the door for natural predators to come in and do their job. Before I show you the actual cost savings, I need to take a quick minute for some critical warnings. First warning, never spray essential oils on rose leaves to repel ants. Last summer, I tried an ant repellent spray containing peppermint and clove essential oils. I sprayed 3 rose bushes at 8 in the morning. By noon, the leaves on all 3 bushes had curled up and scorched as if someone had torched them. Essential oils act like a magnifying glass under UV rays. I lost 2 of those 3 rose bushes. Second warning, don't sprinkle cornmeal around the base. There is a myth that ants eat cornmeal and explode. It's not true. I tried it. The ants carried the meal to their nest and not a single one died. However, the cornmeal attracted field mice which started digging up my plant roots. Third warning, don't use contact ant sprays on the trunk. You will only kill the worker ants. The nest receives an emergency signal and triggers colony budding. A month later, instead of one ant nest, you have two, and your aphid population doubles. An honest note, this method works best on the black garden ant, Lasius niger, the most common species in both the US and Europe. If you have fire ants or carpenter ants, I have dedicated videos for each species on the channel. And remember, this is a control measure, not permanent eradication, but now you have the tools to handle them quickly. I kept a gardening journal throughout the 2024 rose season. Here are the actual numbers for 30 rose bushes. The weekly spraying method using insecticidal soaps, neem oil, and commercial aphid sprays cost me $85 in products and 40 hours of manual labor. The end of season result, about 60% of the plants were aphid-free. The trunk barrier bait method, $2 for a box of borax, $3 for a few rolls of paper masking tape, totaling less than $5. Setup time, 30 minutes for all 30 bushes. End of season result, 95% of the plants were completely aphid-free, and I didn't have to touch a single spray bottle for the rest of the summer. These are not numbers I made up. This is my actual rose garden journal, every page, every week, every single scent. So here is what you have learned today, a multi-layered defense system for your rose garden. Layer 1, understand the real enemy. Aphids aren't the issue, they are the ants' livestock. Layer 2, stop spraying the plants. Layer 3, mix the borax gel bait with the exact ratio, half a teaspoon of borax, 4 tablespoons of white sugar, 4 tablespoons of hot water. Layer 4, place the bait in the correct spot, 30 to 45 centimeters from the ground on a ring of masking tape. Layer 5, protect pets and children using the plastic bottle collar. This is my philosophy. You don't beat pests by killing them one by one. You beat them by making your home and garden a place where they cannot breed, cannot shelter, and cannot find you. But there is a bigger question. Where is the main ant nest located on your property? It could be under a paved walkway next to your foundation or beneath a water tank. And if you don't find and deal with it, every spring it will simply send a new army back to your roses. I have a free checklist for you, the 30-minute ant nest hunting map. It shows you how to use the ants' own trails to trace them back to the exact location of their nest. Download it for free from the link in the description below. And if you want to go further, a comprehensive solution for every type of ant in your home and garden, from black ants, fire ants, and carpenter ants to Argentine ants. I've spent over 15 years testing and consolidating everything into my ebook, Complete Ant Control. The link is also down in the description. While you wait for the gel bait to do its work over the next 3 days, check out my next video on how to treat black sooty mold on rose leaves, the leftover residue of aphid honeydew that you'll soon no longer have to deal with. Before you go, borax is a chemical. Read the safety instructions on the packaging carefully. If you suspect a pet or child has ingested the gel bait, contact your veterinarian or a poison control center immediately. Safe gardening is responsible gardening. I'm Alex Carter from Pest Free Gone. Thank you for your time. Wishing you aphid-free roses, relaxing mornings in the garden, and the joy of watching ladybugs do their job. See you in the next video.